is Muda Yusuf, a Nigerian economist and Chief Executive Officer, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, CPPE.
Moving things along, we shall be engaging Professor Usiju Medana, former organizing secretary of the All Progressives Congress. We'll be discussing President Muhammadu Buhari's absence from the party's campaign activities so far and his latest decision to campaign for the party's presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in just 10 states.
Let's catch up on news making headlines across the globe. Michael Wilson gives us an update on global business outlook, while Ruth Sodiri will update us on African business activities across the continent. Aaron Akirjala will be taking us through sporting activities across the globe. We'll also review today's newspaper, which Arise News analyst Emmanuel Lefene, while Ojiok will fill us in on what's trending around the world. It's going to be all that and a whole lot more today on The Morning Show. Welcome back to The Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. No fewer than 31 passengers and staff of Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) were believed to have been abducted by gunmen on Saturday at the Igwebe train substation in Edo State, while several passengers were injured. Edo State Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Mr. Chris Nehahari, disclosed this yesterday during a media briefing. The State Police Command, in a statement yesterday, said the kidnappers were headsmen armed with AK-47 rifles. It said some of the passengers sustained bullet wounds and assured that the bush combing and rescue operation had begun to rescue the victims. Mr. Nehari disclosed that one of the kidnappers had been arrested and was currently helping the police in the investigation, while one of the victims escaped. He expressed confidence that other victims will be rescued in the coming hours. The Nigerian Railway Corporation has also announced the indefinite shutdown of the Ekenhe station in Edo State. Corporation says that the decision became necessary following the rising security challenges. Meanwhile, this will not affect the Itakpe-Warri train service. Managing Director, Nigerian Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Oheria, says the attack on Ekenhe train station will not stop the Itakpe-Warri operation. It's a lot to talk about. Very sad one this morning.
Very sad, Rufai, as you said, and very unfortunate. On a Monday morning, what we would love to talk about on a day like this is just, perhaps positive news around the economy or gains of the government around security. Unfortunately, 10 months after a similar incident on the Abuja-Kaduna train line, we have another attack on a train station, or at a train station, this time in Edo State, southern Nigeria. Now, the details you've already talked about. Unfortunately, again, despite the fact that a number of reports have said about 32 people, the exact number of people who were abducted by these, would you call them kidnappers, bandits, terrorists, no one has come out to say that they're responsible for this. We don't have the exact number of people who have been taken away. However, what we do know is that the station manager, Mr. Godwin Okwe, as well as another staff of the station, were amongst those who were taken away. Reports from eyewitnesses on ground say that the bandits or the suspected kidnappers or abductors were actually profiling some of the people that they took away. So they were looking at those who were rich, who had, expensive wristwatches and the likes, just to mention a few things and characteristics around this particular incident. And then they said they came in, a number of people came in from the bush, shot sporadically into the air, and then asked the passengers who were on the platform to lay flat, and then carted away some of them into the bush and by foot herded them, into the bush. And they said shortly afterwards, security agencies came to the scene and were in hot pursuit of these criminals into the bush. Unfortunately, reports from the Saturday when this happened on the 7th of January, about 4 p.m. in the evening, there hasn't been much in terms of recovery. There reports here and there about one or two people, one person escaping, one or two people being apprehended, and a suspect also in police custody. However, a few things to notice: the men were bearing AK-47 arms, so they were heavily armed. And then The report is that the train station is in an isolated area, and there was no security. There were no security men or women around that area. That's a red flag. You know, Rufai, you said something, or you tweeted something about the fact that oftentimes in security in Nigeria, we are reactive rather than proactive. This was the same accusation of security agencies during the Abuja-Kaduna train incident. And you begin to wonder that, do we learn lessons from incidences in Nigeria? What kind of intelligence gathering do we do in Nigeria? Must we have situations like this before we begin to call to action, have visitations? I hear the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Mr. Philip Shuaibu, has gone there to visit. We don't want visitations. What we want is a concerted effort by security agencies to prevent incidents like this reoccurring in Nigeria. The Abuja-Kaduna train incident was one too many. We shouldn't have to have another one for us to wake up again and decide, okay, let's start moving around and thinking, what can we do? A few things have been suggested, and I must commend the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, for a few things he said, which I very much agree with. Number one, as I mentioned earlier on, more proactive rather than reactive. Collect intelligence. Work with the local community to gather information. Many of these people live in these communities. They're eyewitnesses. How can men carry over 30 people by foot? And people don't have information about that? It's suspect. And then the second thing, during the Kaduna incident, the Minister of Transportation at that point, Honorable Rotimi Amechi, had said that if the government had listened to them to buy surveillance equipment, then this wouldn't have happened. What happened to surveillance equipment? Should we not think that after what happened in Kaduna, the train track to Kaduna, that we should equip all our train stations with equipment? These are the questions, critical questions, and I believe that we should come to a point in our country where heads have to roll. People have to be fired. Sanctions when things like this happen for negligence. Dr. Bati?
Okay. The attack on a train station and on trains the second time. When this occurred on March 28, it caused a lot of concern. And that March 28 incident, we were dealing with it up till December 5, 2022, when eventually the last batch of persons who have been abducted was released. And then when the Minister of Transportation and also the management of the Nigerian Railway Corporation said they were reopening the affected, at the time, Abuja-Kaduna train line, they said that they are taking precautions. Part of the precautions that the Minister of Transportation told us was that adequate security will be provided for passengers. That in fact, for you to board a train, you may even need to disclose your national identification number, and that there will be additional security in train stations. At the time, he didn't single out just the Abuja-Kaduna train line. He talked about the infrastructure across the country. And then, not up to 2 months after, you had this incident at Igwebe train station in Edo State. Now, in March, the train was already moving before it was attacked by bandits. In this particular case, in Igwebe, people trying to travel from that train station to Warri, they were still at the train station. So how did they gain access to that train station? How are the train stations so porous that anybody could just access it and then abduct 32 persons, including children? But the children were later released because we were told that they thought that the children would slow down their movement. So 2 children were released. The police announced that they were going into what they call exercise bushcombing. I don't know now whether there is a directorate of forest surveillance in the police, but they said they were going to do bushcombing. So the result of that, of course, is that they were able to arrest one of the kidnappers. Another kidnapper escaped. 1 person was rescued. Other persons involved in this incident, they sustained gunshot wounds. So that is the stage where it is. The Deputy Governor has visited, the Minister of Transportation has visited, and the Minister of Transportation was quoted that they will take additional security measures. So they're just thinking of additional security measures after, this second incident has occurred. So that's what makes it, unfortunate. And then on top of all of that, they even had the infantry to tell people that the Takpe-Warri line is open. So people hearing that if you go to a train station, you could be kidnapped. Would they have the confidence to go to any other train station? So all of these, have very serious implications for the trust between the people and the state. If you could not protect people along the Abuja-Kaduna line, what is the guarantee that after the incident in Igweme, that you'll be able to protect people who will go from Itakpe to Warri? I think we're not getting enough by way of information, and it looks clearly that, the Ministry of Transportation and the Nigerian Railway Corporation, they have not learned any concrete lessons from the incident of March 28, and hence you have this kind of situation. Considering the fact that Nigeria invested so much money in getting the rails, the rail lines working again, and then one security challenge after another, then of course it's enough to declare a state of emergency over the rail lines in Nigeria. And then of course, it's not enough to just say we are taking additional security measures. I'll be surprised if anybody believes that this time around. So everything must be done as they have promised to make sure that these persons are rescued. The other persons that were kidnapped along the Abuja-Kaduna train line, they were in custody, they were subjected to extreme humiliation for months before that matter was eventually resolved, not necessarily because of any ingenuity on the part of the security agencies. And then this points also generally to the state of insecurity in the country, and the fact that even the police command, the Edo Police Command, was gleefully saying, oh, the herdsmen were carrying AK-47. Now, part of the challenge here is to address the challenge of illegal firearms and ammunition in wrong hands, in non-state actors. And how did they just jump to the conclusion that they were herdsmen? Do herdsmen go about wearing labels? So what the police tend to do in this environment is to just jump to certain conclusion. Yeah. So the investigation must be thorough, and the police command of Edo State, and even the office of the IGP should keep people properly briefed, and the families of the affected persons should be reassured that they will regain their freedom.
Sad occurrence. If you remember, I think I probably will say it, and I said it when the March incident happened. It will happen again. And I'm not a prophet of doom. I feel for the family members, but it will happen again because it's Nigeria. And culture will eat strategy for breakfast, and we don't learn anything. You talked about the family. Let me start from the family. Are we even sure we have a proper manifest? Hope we didn't have ticket racketeering again, that some people bought tickets through black market means. Are we even sure we have a proper record of the people that bought tickets that were waiting on the tarmac for the train? Let's start from there. So where you can't keep a proper manifest of those that bought tickets, how are we going to contact the families? In the coming days, the families will start coming. I hope the Ministry of Transport will not treat them like they treat the families of the Kaduna victims, that they pushed aside and they told they were stupid because their own people were kidnapped. We are waiting to see how the Ministry of Transport will treat them, because when they come to protest, hope we know they have a right to protest. And hope we will not use them for photo ops again after so many months. Because when they release some of them, remember how we used some people for photo ops? They went to meet the president, they were shaking hands and all, after months in captivity. Hope we are not going to do that again. We don't learn in this country. I hope we even have CCTV cameras in that train station. Hope we have technology. Hope we have security. Because the place was isolated. What security measure was? That place was miles away from the Igwebe General Hospital. Isolated there in the bush. And it's not today we've had activities of bandits around that area. But what was done? Nothing. So you see, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. What I mean is that no matter how much strategy you talk about on the pages of newspaper, if you don't have the culture to do what is right, then nothing will happen. So it will definitely happen again. It is Nigeria. I'm sure we all said that was the last time the March incident happened. And hope people will not politicize the matter. We all remember how Dr. Chinelo was shot, and she tweeted that she was shot, and how some people with certain political parties leaning started mocking Dr. Chinelo, because in Nigeria everything is politics, just like they've started again. It's bad news. We are reporting bad news because it's political season. hopes of people will not be daft enough to keep these mindsets of politics come first before the lives of people. I don't know when people even draw the line of all this nonsense they do because of politics. Let us build a country that will stand the test. So this country is great, and it has the capacity to even be greater. We can't build red lines and live it at the expense of people, and they just get damaged and they just get kidnapped. The president must take responsibility. The buck stops with him, not the Edo State Police Command. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, yesterday clarified that for now, banks were only authorized to dispense the new 200, 500, and 1,000 naira banknotes through automated teller machines. The Apex Bank said it has intensified effort to ramp up circulation of the new notes. The bank also yesterday reiterated that there will be no extension of the January 2031 deadline for the return of old 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes to the banks. In addition, the Central Bank, in collaboration with National Orientation Agency and various market associations, will begin from tomorrow commence aggressive enlightenment and public awareness on the Naira redesign project, as well as the needs to properly handle the Naira notes. I mean, a lot to talk about on this, Ayo.
I'll keep this short and sweet. So, just an update there. 31st of January remains sacrosanct. CBN has come out to say. So, January 31st, they're going to phase out the old 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira notes. Also very important is what we've been calling for, which is more sensitization and awareness. And I like, and I'm glad that for the fact that they're starting the market women, because we've seen videos where transport workers have refused collecting these notes because they're not aware and they don't recognize these as legal tender. That's another thing. So let's take it, make it very aggressive. I wish this had started some weeks back, or perhaps immediately as part of the plans when they launched. But very important, glad they're doing this. And finally, just to mention that they talked about the fact that you can only get the new notes through the automated teller machines, your ATMs. On this show last week, we talked about the fact that at least none of us hadn't seen the notes. I'd seen it from afar, but I haven't held it. And so they're saying that what banks did was that they reserved for some VIP customers over the counters. So the CBN has mandated them, put in your ATM so that the common Nigerian can get or have access to these notes. Great one.
Dr. Watson.
Okay. When the new notes were introduced on December 15, Nigerians were given the assurance by the Central Bank of Nigeria that they will in fact get these new notes of very high quality that the CBN had made available through the mint, and that the production was done here in Nigeria. After the initial skepticism, people became interested, they became excited, but the issue here is that the banks don't even have the new notes. When you go to the banks, almost a month later, they will tell you that the notes are not available. If you go to some other possible sources, they were not available. Now a new directive has been given that the supply of notes to the banks, the dispensing of those notes should be done through the automated teller machines. Some newspapers have reported that yes, some banks have the notes, some banks don't have in their ATMs, and that in any case, the CBN spokesperson, Wani Sobe, has assured everyone that there's more than enough supply. Well, that remains to be seen, but there are persons who have also been saying that because of these initial glitches that have been observed, maybe the central bank should consider the possibility of extending the deadline from January 31. The lawmakers want the extension from January 31 to June 30. Well, the CBN has said it is willing to listen to people. Now, one of the things they intend to do is to start a mass enlightenment campaign from tomorrow. Well, maybe that mass enlightenment campaign should have started earlier, because with the introduction of the new notes on December 15, 2022, the first thing that was noticed was that people who had not been properly educated or enlightened about the new notes, they were rejecting it. And there were videos that went viral of people saying, no, give me the old note. I don't know this new note. So the enlightenment process cannot be too much to do. Now, the third point with regard to this has to do with the fact that people have raised questions about the quality of the notes. We're told that if you rub the the new currency notes on a white sheet of paper or a white surface, the entangling ink will rub off on that paper. But the managing director of the Mint has come forward to say, no, it's actually an indication of the very high security feature that have been, that has been introduced to the new, redesigned notes. And that message will have to be well amplified so that people do not continue to relate with the notes on the basis of prejudice. But what is more important is, despite the fact that the CBN says that its intention is to reduce the amount of money in circulation and bring them within the bank, then the CBN has an obligation to still make those notes available. Because there is also the concern that, well, you have to be a big man to get the new notes. No, the Naira note is a national symbol. It's national currency. Every Nigerian, regardless of their station, whether princes or plebeians, should be able to access it. After all, it's a value for exchange. And that doesn't know class. Everybody is part of this process.
All right. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll have Michael Wilson, Road to Dewey, to give us updates on global and African business activities. Stay with us.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Yesterday, I got a call from Globe. I won a 3-bedroom bungalow.
Yes, guys! Guess what? I won a car.
I won a generator by participating in the Festival of Joy promo by Glow.
Hey, Glow don't do this one for me. Glow to make it set to me with sewing machine.
I won generator last year. This year I won for
It's a celebration like no other, with prizes like no other. 20 new houses to be won, 24 brand new cars, 200 sewing machines, 100 generators, 1,000 rechargeable fans. Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# now.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from Cape Town, South Africa. Good morning.
Morning. Asia markets slightly up. The borders between Hong Kong and China have been opened, and so that's helped a lot of optimism as far as that region's concerned. However, has to be said that Chinese consumers not really heading back to the shops just yet. Jack Ma, the founder of Ant, now if you remember, there was going to be a massive flotation, $37 billion worth of flotation. That was actually pulled in November 2010 because apparently the Chinese authorities didn't like the fact that Jack Ma's company was dominating the tech sector. He's given up control more or less. He did have 50% of the voting rights, now has 6.2%. Will it get in the way of an eventual IPO of Ant rather? Not quite clear at the moment, but all this is part of his wishing to curry favour with the authorities, and all part of the China tech crackdown. China is also suspending any social media accounts which criticise its anti-COVID policy. The Communist Party doesn't brook any kind of criticism at all. That's affecting about 1,000 accounts at the moment. Meanwhile, mainland China is set to take away the market in terms of making things for iPhone production. Now, this is in contrast to what we were hearing last week when Apple was searching around India and Vietnam for alternative manufacturers. China is attempting to claw back some of the market there. I'll talk about Brazil, really. I mean, we did touch on it last week. I'll only mention it because I feel as though we should, and in as much as I'm not quite sure about what the economic problems about this, but Bolsonaro supporters who refused to believe that he actually lost the election, which Lula eventually won, they actually rioted yesterday. They set siege to Congress, the Supreme Court, and also the palace there. And there's sort of echoes of January 26, 2021 that happened on Capitol Hill in the United States. But I just thought I'd mention it because that's still quite a volatile place to think about investing in. As far as US stock market is concerned, US futures inched higher. Now, on Friday, the jobs figures were actually quite robust. But the most important thing, I feel, was the wage inflation figures, which showed a gradual fall. And if that means that the Fed's getting on top of inflation, that's enough to cheer the markets. And that means that interest rates won't be rising at quite the rate. Well, that was an indication, at least, on Friday, that interest rates won't be rising quite as fast and as quickly as had been thought already. But who's to know? The Fed has its own voice on that. Elon Musk, now there is a class action from shareholders, which was going to be heard in San Francisco. He's saying, or his attorneys are saying, that there's a lot of local opposition to Elon Musk in San Francisco. He wants it all transferred to Texas. This is the shareholders who actually are saying that his original tweet, which is a long time ago now, talking about taking the company private. This is in 2018 at $420 a share. Did that affect the share price? Did that affect what investors were actually thinking? I did actually feel personally that it's not really the way to govern a company, tweeting what ought to be happening through regulatory authorities, but there we are. Goldman Sachs, now originally they were going to cut 3,900 jobs. They're thinking about now 3,200, but it's still an indictment of what's happening in the markets. They're cutting from their consumer-facing division. That's 6.5% of the 40,000 workforce internationally, and also a slimming down of their investment bank activities as well. So that says if a company like Goldman Sachs is slimming down, it says a lot for the way the economy is actually going. And Kevin McCarthy, again, this is a US political thing, but the Speaker of the House is an important job. Apart from the Vice President, he's next in line to the ear of the President, and so therefore everything going through the House has to really go through him and then to the President. And of course, as you know, there are lots of different kind of things taking place within the United States at the moment. And it may well be that this because rebel Republicans could now halt any kind of legislation in the United States, it's all on a bit of a knife edge there as far as pushing through, Joe Biden pushing through more legislation towards the end of his term. I have the first figures for you for what the UK strikes probably are costing the authority. This comes from Pan Muir-Gordon, which is a well-known and well-regarded stockbroker in the City of London. 0.25% of GDP, apparently, and a lot of that took place in December last year and coming into January this year. 1.6 billion of that, and the National Health Service itself backlog there, causing 200 million. Causing the economy to fail by £200 million. Whether or not those you can actually calculate these figures, who knows? But those, at least I thought I'd share those with you from Pan Muir-Gordon. UK Shell is going to play the first tax in 5 years. It says it's going to take a hit of 1.6 billion on its shares, on its profits of $9.5 billion dollars. Earlier this year, from July to September, that was a record, and the government has been clamping down on its government's energy profits levy, and that is part of this. And as far as the UK is concerned, foreign investors are turning away. Could be a bit to do with the fact that since in a year we've had 3 prime ministers, the UK's had 3 prime ministers, 4 chancellors and 3 business secretaries, but 31% of those surveyed by something called Made UK actually are saying that the UK is not competitive compared with its European neighbours. And finally, oil is due for a rebound. I said this on Friday. It hasn't happened yet, but, we balance against that China re-emergence possibly, and also a global recession, which the IMF forecast last week. That is the global view this morning.
Right, so what is really happening? With this strike thing, it's as if the UK economy is in toast as we speak today, because with debt of over 2 trillion, interest rate on those debt about 6.1 billion, although it increased recently when Liz Truss had the shenanigans she had on the market. And as that is going on, then you are hemorrhaging as regards GDP because of the strikes, 0.25% out on the GDP. Then the economy is heating up. So what is really happening? What is happening? I think there's a loss of leadership somewhere. Even Rishi Sunak, I don't know what's going on.
He came out with his 5-point plan, didn't he, Rishi Sunak, last week, and we talked about it then, and there wasn't a lot in there that was new. Inflation will come down because that's just a calculation. Doesn't mean to say the cost of living won't hurt, and also energy costs as well coming down too. Who's to say what's going to happen in 2023? I think the nearest we can get to is the IMF's forecast of a recession, and certainly I think will be a relatively shallow recession in the UK. I think it's going to be very tough indeed. It's a question really of whether or not overseas companies keep faith in the issuance of UK gilts. If they do, then that'll carry the UK through. But if they don't, I think that what has to happen is that Rishi Sunak has to be seen to be getting around a table with the strikers at the moment, and the indications are that will happen at some kind of stage. So there's a slight softening there, but still, what he's saying is that whatever the unions want has to be responsible and has to fit in with what the economy can actually afford. So I think all those kind of outward signs are probably set reasonably fair, but let's not, as you quite rightly say, the problems of the economy are huge and lasting, and will last. It's going to be a very, very tough 2023. No question about that.
Right, moving away, since we've talked about the UK, let's talk about China. Reports coming in from China, particularly following removal of COVID restrictions, very worrying. Now you're talking about them clamping down on social media platforms that criticize and perhaps are able to paint a true picture of what's going on in China. WHO and World Health Organization warned a few days back that they are under-reporting deaths. They've seen high-profile deaths, including the opera singer in December, Chulan Lan. There are concerns around China, and yesterday they removed further restrictions on travel. What's the impact of this? Definitely worrying for the world at large.
I mean, the problem is, it's, as usual, it's a very mixed picture. I mean, what you know? So I'm not so sure that facts about the economy are going to come from social media. I think what's being reflected in social media is the anger of people who were open-endedly just being confined to their apartments or to their houses, wherever it may be in China, as a result of the anti-COVID measures. And I think the government came in for a lot of criticism about that. Certainly, some of the industrial upheaval at, for example, Foxconn, which we noted as well, was all part of that. So it's a very difficult gentle tread back into what's happening post-pandemic. The Communist Party doesn't brook any criticism. I think it's a reasonable sign that borders have been opened. I think what the Chinese probably will have to do, and I suspect we'll get a very mixed picture over the coming weeks, is learn how to live with COVID and boost the herd immunity. If that happens within China, then I think that's probably quite good news for the economy. But as far as I can see, and I share your views on it completely, it seems a long way off right now.
Well, still on China, I mean, Asia-Pacific markets traded higher yesterday with the barrier between Hong Kong and China being removed, marking the end of the zero-COVID policy. But I've seen comments saying that, look, China's reopening will have very terrible side effects for the rest of the world, particularly countries that depend on commodities. Already inflation has hit a record high in Europe, and the fear is that if Brent crude, for example, goes up to $100, if there is further pressure on prices of other commodities, with increased demand from China, that other countries, particularly in the West, would have to further tighten monetary policy. So what's the connection, really, in practical terms? And then as for Jack Ma, well, Jack Ma saying that he's relinquishing control at Ant Financials. That's an indication, of course, that the Chinese authorities are getting away, with their insistence that, look, these big tech companies, they don't want the monopoly of one man and all of that. But what happens to the Ant Group hereafter? You recall that in November 2020, the Ant Group had to suspend its IPO of $37 billion. Now, would this provide an opportunity for them to go back to that issuance of that IPO? And if they must, what are the hurdles, likely hurdles?
I think Ant is an opportunity for somebody to actually come forward. I suspect the state of China will probably have the majority of holdings as it does at the moment. He's certainly stepped down from his 50% to 6.2% of control in the company. And I think what he's doing is actually acknowledging the fact that, it seems a long time ago now, doesn't it, when he gave that speech, but it was certainly something which angered the authorities. And this is something which people are complaining about. Again, it's a very mixed picture, what's happening in the United States. Yeah, sure, the Asia shares went up. Again, I'm reading what the market's telling me, which is because of that opening of borders between Hong Kong and China. I mean, it could be a lot also to do with the jobs figures in the United States, which were quite robust. But the fact that inflation was coming down says a lot about global interest rates and so on. Now, you can play with the figures any way you like, and you can play the inflation game and so on. I think probably long term, it's healthy that China opens up, because it still has to find a market for its goods. And there's no point in drawing in commodities if it hasn't got a market for its goods. So I think things will probably go out and down. I think it's a bit too volatile to say anything specific about what's going on there. But I think you're absolutely right. They concentrate on the commodity markets, but they're not necessarily going to add to inflation, because those commodities have to be made into things that people want to buy. And I'm not quite sure that they want to do that at the moment. So I would say that it's a little early to start making prognostications about the way inflation is actually going in the rest of the world.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Wilson. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on. Education has been in the headlines in Nigeria, with presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, promising student loans if elected, and the Academic Staff Union of Universities president calling for an increase in education tax from 2.5% to 10%. Arise business correspondent Rotus Odiri investigated the viability of both. Here is his report.
Education is critical to every economy around the world, none more so than Nigeria. One of the biggest issues facing education in Africa's largest economy is funding it. Recently, there have been a couple solutions that have been put forward: student loans and raising taxes. Nigeria now has about 20 million out-of-school children, according to the latest global data on out-of-school children by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Here is Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, on Nigeria's Sustainable Development Goals, where he emphasized healthcare and education.
The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, in close collaboration with relevant ministries, embarked on an independent evaluation of two priority SDGs, SDG 3 on quality health and well-being for all, and SDG 4 on qualitative and inclusive education and lifelong learning for all. Significantly, the report noted that education financing is much lower than in other African countries, and that transparency around education budgeting and spending needs to improve.
The Secretary General was very...
Matthias Schmali, United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, has expressed his concerns about Nigeria's ability to fund education. He said, in relation to the SDG 4 on quality education, it is, for example, concerning to note that Nigeria is unlikely to achieve the global agenda for universal, inclusive, and equitable basic education for all school-age children by 2030 if the current very low public investment in the education sector remains the same. He also said in the 2022 budget, there was an increase to 7% on education, but the evaluation says it will need to increase to 20% with clear accountabilities on delivery. Nigeria's 2023 budget allocation for education is 1.79 trillion naira, 8.2% of the total budget, which is an improvement from 2022, but still under the 20% threshold advised by the United Nations. One of the solutions being put forward is coming from the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He is suggesting student loans.
We will give you.
Back in 2015, while campaigning for Muhammadu Buhari, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said the APC would provide student loans.
We will give you student loan. Our program, 4 years will be 4 years. You will not extend before 4 years to graduate in a university.
7 years later, in 2022, Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Labor and Employment and also the spokesman for the Tinubu presidential campaign, said low revenue was the reason the promise wasn't kept, but the promise is still alive.
So there was a problem of revenue, but the dream remained alive. The dream to fulfill these promises are still alive today as we begin to ramp up our revenues.
The APC presidential candidate has repeated this campaign promise in 2022 and 2023, but is yet to speak to any local media to explain how student loans in Nigeria will be funded under his plan.
We will establish student loan. 4 years course, must be 4 years course. The variables, we take care of the variables. Interest rate, when does it start? When do you start to pay? When do you start to be employed? What aspect of it is to be written off during NYC? Or when does it? We answer those questions. They are questions. They have answers. Conceptually, the student loan, no one should be left behind.
There will be student loan. If you cannot finance yourself, we give you a loan. You complete the education. When you get the work, only when you start working and with the capacity to pay, then you start to pay.
So the question is, are student loans in Nigeria viable? Well, we went looking for answers.
The student loan in Nigeria is really not viable. It's not implementable. I feel like putting the children in bondage. a country as rich as America introduced this bank loan, and somewhere along the line, because the students, those who pass through, are suffering in payment, the present president, who is a Democrat, decided to write off most of this loan, and is still doing so because it's having an adverse effect on the citizen. So if in a country like America, where people get job when you are through, you could have, if you don't have a job, you could have the country assist you, the loan did not work. Is it in Nigeria where you have 133 million Nigerians being under poverty line that the people go to take loan and pay, where unemployment is as high as 30-40%? Is that where they will pay?
The first thing a lender worries about is the source of repayment of the loan. You are lending students money to get an education without knowing whether they will get a job or what will happen or not. Therefore, I don't think lending money to students works anywhere. I mean, in the US, it's a problem. There's no point lending and giving debt forgiveness. I believe a much more viable option is to give scholarships and grants and bursaries so that education is a right, everybody. So free and compulsory and quality education is a right. And therefore, my view is that the monies that will be saved from subsidies should be deployed almost totally, fully towards funding education.
I have my significant doubt as to whether student loan will be a viable proposition in Nigeria as of today, essentially because of a number of factors. The first one is around data and identity management. So we don't have a unique way, even though we have the NIN, but it hasn't been well established and entrenched into the system such that it will be difficult for you to even track who got the loan, are they now employed, how much do they need to pay back. Also think about the fact that in terms of the size we're looking at, we have around 2 million undergraduates in all the Nigerian universities. As of today, about 300,000 postgraduate students. If you estimate that the amount of money they would need, you are easily talking about 1 trillion a year, at least for the first few years before students start hopefully repaying back. So that's going to be a big one, because if governments could afford about 1 trillion, why have they not been funding the demands of ASU?
Another solution that's being put forward is to raise taxes for education. And this is being preferred by the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. What he has suggested is to raise the education tax from 2.5% to 10%. Now, for context, the Finance Bill 2022 currently calls for that tax to be raised from 2.5% to 3%. We asked the president of ASU why, and we also got reactions to his proposal.
Well, that idea actually came from me as a person. And my idea is this. As at present, in 1992, when we had an agreement with government, and government said there's no money to fund it, like they are saying now, they now challenge us to look for other means we can use to pay this, we can use to fund this your agreement. That was the origin of TED Fund. That was the idea is from ASU. So this time around, the government also saying that there is no money to fund education. We can only give 5.9% budget to education. I guess 16%. The country will do, and so all sort of thing. And we are suggesting, and they are not suggesting we should not introduce tuition fee for the children of a man or a family that earn 30,000 a month, less than a bag of rice. How will these 130 million people be able to pay fee for their children and be in school? My own idea, instead of trying to tax these 133 million people who are already on that poverty line, why don't you take 10% of the profit of the big men? Just 10% of the profit, not the capital, of the big men, the big companies. Why not take 10%? Instead of punishing 133 million who are under poverty, why not take 30% and inject into the education system so that all the children can have access to good education, create jobs, and you have a better country, free country, a country where we will not need to spend so much of our resources on insecurity. So that is my idea.
I think, again, that's another knee-jerk reaction, with all due respect for ASU. what has been done with the 2.5%? What have we achieved so far with the Education Treasury Fund and all of that? We should now look at how effective our tax collection and utilization of tax proceeds has been in terms of its impact on the people.
Yeah, I completely disagree with ASU on that proposal to increase tertiary education tax to 10%. I can tell you that as of today, we have it at 2.5%, and that was an increase just about 1 year ago. And based on the 2022 finance bill, there's already another proposal to make it 3%. For those of us who are involved in tax matter, I can tell you authoritatively that this education tax, 1 basis point of education tax rate is equivalent to 2 basis points of company's income tax rate, because it's calculated on a much larger base than the corporate income tax. So what that means effectively is that if you take the corporate income tax of 30%, take the tertiary education tax, multiply it by 2, that gives you 5%. You have NICTA, information technology tax, you have the police tax, you have the science and engineering tax. By the time you stack it all together, in addition to the 10% withholding tax that companies pay when they distribute their profits, you would easily find that the effective tax rate on corporates in Nigeria is well over 40%. This is one of the top 10 highest in the world. For a country where you need a lot of investments to attract, it's much higher than the average for even the OECD and for Africa. So the problem that we have with the educational sector is not to keep increasing the burden on the private sector to fund them. Fundamental question should be, over the past 10 years alone, education tax has contributed over 2 trillion naira to that sector. Who is explaining how that money has been spent?
So what about students? What do they think about taking loans to fund their studies and raising taxes to fund universities in Nigeria?
On the matter of student loan, I will not take at the moment.
Why not?
Because I can comfortably afford the fees at the moment. But if there's a situation whereby there's an increase over the years, I might be forced to.
For a start, I wouldn't take a loan because I don't need it, because it's being funded by my parents. But we have students that have difficult terrain on campus and all of that. So, and if I'm in that shoe, I don't think I would want to take a loan. I want to do something else, maybe borrow money from a friend and pay back, because we know that all these loan companies, they ask for too much. They will tell you a term and condition. At the end of the day, they will not abide by them. They will tarnish your image in society and send you messages, send your relative messages and all of that. So I wouldn't want to take a loan. I want to prefer another option.
I love what ASU is doing. ASU is a formidable prayer group on the government. If you look at our education system, most of the development we are seeing is because ASU is not keeping quiet. But on the issue of increasing educational tax from 2.5% to 10%, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and put more pressure on government to see where there are possible leakages in the existing 2.5 tax, educational tax, and see whether it is even being judiciously used.
Nigeria urgently needs to attend to her education sector, and it is hoped that the conversations being held today can quickly become effective policies of tomorrow for the purpose of our youth. Roti Sodiri, Arise News.
A brilliant report there by Roti Sodiri on student loans. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Muda Yusuf, a Nigerian economist and director, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, CPPE. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow.
This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
Set to take the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment that's just as big. Don't miss the first ever season of Big Brother Titans with two African giants, Niger and Nsamse, under Biggie's roof together. Big Brother Titans starts on Sunday, 15th of January on DSTV 198, GoTV 29, and Africa Magic. Headline sponsor, Bamboo, Flutterwave, and Lotto Star.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Amid the rising demand for the new Naira notes, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has dismissed speculations over the inadequacy of the new notes in the deposit money banks, saying the banks have enough new notes to circulate across the nation, ahead of the January 31st deadline when old notes will cease to be a legal tender. The CBN has also clarified that it did not ban the banks from paying customers the new notes over the counter, pointing out that the directive to the banks is to dispense new notes via automated teller machines to complement over-the-counter transactions and increase the circulation of the redesigned notes. The Apex Bank had directed the banks to load their ATMs with only new notes to ensure that the currency circulates across the country ahead of the January 31st deadline. Even with the directive from the CBN, the new Naira notes are still to be adequately circulated, as citizens have complained about its scarcity. Joining us on this show this morning, right now, to discuss the inadequacy of the new Naira notes in circulation is Muda Yusuf, a Nigerian economist and director, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, CPP. Welcome to the morning show, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Good morning.
Okay, good. Good to see you in the new year. But you're listening to the various issues raised in that introduction. Many Nigerians are complaining that those new notes are not available. And even with the directive that the banks should dispense the new notes through the ATM to complement over-the-counter transactions, there isn't enough in supply. Contrary to the promise by the CBN spokesperson, Wani Sobi, who says, no, there is adequate supply. Well, some people say they only get these new notes when they go to event centers on weekends, at Owambe events, or they probably see them with more privileged members of the community. So what do you think the CBN should do to address this? Beyond the enlightenment program that they say they will be starting tomorrow to enlighten people, particularly market women, across the country.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the CBN should be a lot more sensitive to developments in the environment. Obviously, from what we can see, and I mean, the evidence abound everywhere, we are dealing with a situation of a serious capacity problem on the part of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Capacity in terms of the production of the new notes and capacity with respect to logistics. Obviously, the CBN has grossly underestimated what it takes to make this currency available across the country. If we are getting this kind of feedback and stories from cities like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, what are we going to say about those who are in more remote places or other states outside of these major cities? As I speak to you, I have not seen the new currency notes beyond what I see on the screen and things like that. And yet we have practically just about 3 weeks to deadline. This is clearly unrealistic. And I wonder sometimes the CBN behaves as if they are in a different planet from where we are. This is obviously unrealistic. The deadline is unrealistic. And the Senate, I mean, if only out of courtesy and respect, the Senate has advised that the deadline should be shifted. Because quite frankly, I don't understand what the rush is all about. I don't know what they want to achieve. Even the very concept of redesigning and all of this, I struggle with the value proposition. What exactly do they want to achieve? I mean, if you take examples of other clients where they have had issues of transition from, one currency to the other, sometimes they give as long as 3 years. The most recent example is what is happening in the UK. There's a change from the paper notes to the polymer notes of £20 and £50. This process commenced in February 2020, and it just ended in September 2022. That's over 2 years. That's even for a country that has all the logistics, the technology, and everything. They give 2 years. Take the example of the United States. As we speak, all designs of currency notes of a US dollar, right from the one that was printed in 1963, all their currency notes are still legal tender up to today. You can check it on the Federal Reserve website. They don't stampede their citizens. As if we have not had enough trouble in this economy. I think the CBN has been unfair to citizens with this. And now they are saying that even for above the counter and all of that, now all sorts of contradictory circulars and statements, but are even confusing the citizens. I don't think we deserve this. This is an economy where we have over 30 million adults that are unbanked. All these their policies have not even made accommodation for them. They are citizens of this country. We have to factor their interest into whatever we are doing.
All right, Dr. Yusuf.
Now they are saying people should go to ATM and all of that. If you don't have an account, how can you go to ATM? And in any case, how many ATMs do we have around the country? Across all locations in the country, how many communities have ATMs? We have people in rural areas, in rural, very, very remote locations.
All right,
they are all Nigerians.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, thank you.
So I think the CBN should be more sensitive. They should be more responsive.
All right.
This country belongs to all of us.
Indeed. Dr. Yusuf, you haven't hidden your position or view with regards to the redesigning of the Naira notes. Indeed, you kicked against it right from the announcement, and you've granted a number of interviews or where you've appeared, you talked about it. However, at least as at today, the CBN is not shifting grounds. They're saying that come 31st of January, it is sacrosanct. They're going to phase out the old notes and bring in the new notes. What better way can the CBN manage? So one of the things they're doing now is to manage the situation. Is that they're saying that they're giving a new directive as to it being collected, being dispensed to the ATMs. They're talking about working with the National Orientation Agency to raise, sensitize market women and people in the community in Nigeria as to the new notes. What would be your recommendation to make this work? Because they've cited some reasons why they have to do this or why they'd had to do this. What would be your recommendation to them?
Well, first of all, you cannot give what you don't have. It is very clear to everybody that the CBN doesn't have the capacity to meet this deadline. And must it be at all costs? I've just cited the example of other economies where they use 1 year, 2 years to transition from one note to the other. Now, what magic do they want to perform? I think the thing is that they should just come to the reality that is on the ground. And as I said, Nigerians have suffered enough. If the CBN cannot be part of the solution to the problems that we are going through, they should not be part of the problem. I mean, what magic do they want to perform? We just have 3 weeks. This is a very vast country with a population of over 200 million people, with people in very remote locations around the country. I mean, the CBN is there to serve the people. It's not for the people to serve them. And if people are saying that this is not realistic, I mean, why must they insist on this deadline? This is not a military regime. The Senate has spoken. The House of Reps has spoken. These are representatives of the people. So I don't understand where this, I don't want to call it arrogance or whatever. I don't understand where this is coming from. What exactly do they want to achieve? All this redesigning and all of it has no monetary policy significance at all. People have said it will bring down inflation, it will strengthen the Naira. There is no basis for all of that, both empirically and theoretically. So the CBN should not inflict unnecessary pain on Nigerians. We have enough problems already. People are grappling with high cost of goods and services. We are grappling with problem of poverty. We are grappling with problems in the exchange rate and all of that. And yet you now throw this into the works to achieve what? Of course, we are in it, but at least we should make it a lot more seamless.
Okay.
They need to shift ground. This deadline needs to be shifted. I've heard argument that maybe this is about politicians who want to buy votes and all of that. Should that be the main responsibility of the Central Bank of Nigeria? And must it be at this cost to the citizens? I mean, if you have people, they don't have, they are all sorts of remote locations. They bring their money to the bank. They cannot exchange it. How do we want them to run their business? This economy is almost 50% informal. The agricultural sector is basically a rural activity. The rural economy is big. A lot of transactions are taking place in terms of business. Do you know how much a truckload of either yam, potato, tomato, you do know how much it costs a truckload of it? And many of these people operate, they use cash.
Okay, sir. I'd like to ask you
So we have to be a bit more inclusive in our policy approach.
Okay, sir. I'd like to ask you, good to see you again, sir. Happy New Year. Is there any way the CBN has violated the CBN Act in this policy? I'd just like to ask you that frontally. Is there any place that what the CBN is doing now is at variance with the CBN Act? Is there anywhere? Can you tell me?
Well, I don't think there is, I'm not a lawyer, I don't think there is any, apart from the issues of the scandalous ways and means, which, I mean, is in the public domain, where the CBN has flagrantly violated the CBN Act. Apart from that, in terms of this particular situation, the CBN has the legal authority to change currency note and all of that. But there's a fundamental human rights issue here. And fundamental human rights is a constitutional issue. The CBN Act cannot be more superior to the Constitution. If I'm a Nigerian and I have my cash, you can't compel me to open an account. If I bring my cash, you say you want to take the legal, you have to take it and give me the new notes. Now you are not doing that.
But the new notes are being given.
And many citizens are now on the verge. Where are they?
The new notes are
How many people are they covered?
The new notes are being given, and the CBN expressed...
Given to how many people?
Through ATM, there have been ATM cards that some normal citizens went and they withdraw the new note. And secondly, the CBN, in its analysis before this time, said that it's to control the circulation of currency. So they will not print at a big amount. And that's why they gave people the alternative to use various forms of online digital banking to be able to stop Naira in the circulation, reduce Naira in the circulation, to boost the cashless policy. Those are the arguments they made. And that's why I said, have they violated any laws? You said no, according to the CBN Act. So,
you see, there is law and there is what you call maybe the reality of what is on the ground. Something may be legally right, but in terms of practice, morality and all of that, it may not be right. Now you say there are too much cash in the economy. Where is the data to show that? If you look at the data, cash dominance is measured by cash to GDP ratio. That is where you measure cash dominance in an economy. Cash to GDP ratio in Nigeria is one of the lowest in the world. We have a GDP of over 200 trillion. This cash we are talking about is just 3 trillion. Just about 1.5%. How much more cashless can you be? In the United States, cash to GDP ratio is about 10%. In UK, it's about 3%. In Nigeria, it's 1.5%. You need cash to service an economy. The cash we have is not too much for this economy. People should go and look at the data. An important policy should be data-driven. They should be evidence-based. Total money supply in this economy is 51 trillion. Cash component of money is just 3 trillion. Cash outside the bank is 2.8 trillion. Just about 5% of that. So is that too much?
Okay.
You could look at the data for other economies. So all this argument cannot stand in the face of even theory and empirical evidence.
Okay. Dr.
So I don't know where all of this is coming from.
Dr. Isu, will it be any consolation?
I can hear you, Doc.
Yes. Will it be any consolation if we rely on the promise by the CBN governor that yes, the CBN has a listening ear and will take on board some of the concerns of Nigerians? And you mentioned vote buying. What if all of this is just to prevent vote buying, and after March, the CBN can then go back and say, well, we've put more money into supply, and we can extend it at this point. Is that a possibility? And then apart from that, I would like you to comment on the budget 2023. We have the Appropriation Act. We don't have the Finance Act, which is supposed to spell out, the revenue projections of government in more concrete terms.
If this is about vote buying, and I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility, it is not the business of the CBN to subject Nigerians to this kind of disruption just because you want to tackle the issue of vote buying. These are issues for security agencies to deal with. You have ICPC, you have EFCC, you have DSS, you have INEC itself. Why will you abandon your core responsibility and be chasing the issue of vote buying? If that is where they are coming from. It's completely out of place. And in any case, the CBN governor himself was an aspirant sometimes back. Is that not even creating a credibility problem for both the CBN governor and the CBN itself in this matter? I mean, this can only happen in a country like this. So I don't think the issue of what needs to be done has to be done. You govern for people. You make laws for people. You don't make people for laws. You make regulations for people. You don't make people for regulations. So the interest of the people should be uppermost, should be sovereign, should be supreme in this matter. And if the people are saying that this is not feasible, and there is nowhere, anywhere around the world where you are doing this transition and you have this kind of stampede of your citizens. On the finance bill, well, luckily the president didn't sign it because we had an unusual situation with the finance bill. There was normally supposed to be a public hearing. The Senate gave only 24 hours for public hearing to take place. What kind of democracy is that? There was a public announcement on the 21st. The public hearing was supposed to be on the 22nd. And before we knew what was happening, the bill had been passed to the president for assent. The House of Representatives scheduled a public hearing for 13th of January. We didn't know what happened. Even before the date, they had passed the bill to the president for assent. That doesn't speak well of our democracy. And this is a bill that contains far-reaching legislations, amending a lot of legislation that impacts on the investment environment, which require a lot of input, a lot of consultation, both with the stakeholders and even some key agencies of government. But luckily, the president had the listening ear. He assented to the Appropriation Act and supplement, but he didn't assent to the finance bill. So that has gone back now for further consultation. So our hope is that the National Assembly will now allow for proper public hearing, because the bill is coming with all sorts of issues. The bill is reviewing, increasing the tertiary education tax from 2.5% to 3%, And it was only reviewed at the last finance bill or finance act. Just 1 year ago, the tax was moved from 2% to 2.5%. Now they are talking about moving it to 3%. Then you have this proposal to impose excise duty on all services. I mean, how is that done? How can you impose excise duty on all services? That is not right. And we are talking about businesses that are already paying company tax. They are paying all sorts of levies. They are paying all sorts of fees. They are paying VAT, withholding tax, import duty, education tax, tax to police trust fund, national tax, NIDA tax, in addition to fees that they pay to regulatory agencies. You cannot kill investors in the name of raising revenue. That is not the way to grow an economy. How many people are in the tax base? How many people are in the tax net? So these are very fundamental issues. And that is why I feel that the process of the finance bill has to be a lot more inclusive, which is what the president has suggested. And I'm hoping that before the bill is returned back to the president for assent, at least the various shades of opinion will have been, incorporated. And that will shape the quality of the bill. But the way the bill was initially passed, it was rushed. They were so hasty. I don't know what informed that.
Well,
if you must meet January to December deadline, must it be at all cost?
On that note.
But just as I said, we must commend the president for not assenting to the bill and for, ensuring that this thing is taken back to make the process a lot more inclusive.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, for joining us on the morning show today. We'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll be talking to Professor Isiju Medina, former APC organizing secretary. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select Loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
Lagos has amassed more wealth than any other state in the country to be the most comfortable city to live in.
Now Lagos is earning 51 billion naira every month.
But even with all that money, this is the Lagos you have now. Bad roads filled with potholes, poor drainage system resulting in floods during rainy season, incessant traffic congestions, increased environmental pollution, poor healthcare system, large-scale child begging, poor security and increased crime rate, impunity of state government officials, lack of clean drinking water, poor transportation system. After years of empty promises, Lagos is now rated as the second worst city to live in the world. How long shall we continue like this? Lagos is not working. We want our Lagos back. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as governor of Lagos State. Chafueko, fight for Lagos.
PDP, power to the people.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Since the ruling All Progressives Congress embarked on its presidential campaign around the country, many have questioned the absence of President Muhammadu Buhari from the campaign rallies being held across Nigeria. However, the APC Presidential Campaign Council has announced that President Muhammadu Buhari would attend just 10 state rallies of the ruling party's presidential standard bearer for the 2023 election, Bola Tinubu. In a swift reaction, the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, said the president's decision to join Tinubu's campaign in just 10 states is not surprising and a confirmation that Buhari had been foot-dragging in campaigning alongside Tinubu, in quotes, who has brought them more grief than glory, end of quote. The PDP, in a statement by its director of media, Basharun Dele Momodu, added it was obvious that President Muhammadu Buhari and many senior APC chieftains are palpably embarrassed about the quality of their presidential campaigns, which has been extremely lackluster. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss Buhari's absence from the party's campaign activities so far and his latest decision to campaign for the party's presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in just 10 states, is Professor Usiju Medana, former APC Organizing Secretary. Welcome to the morning show. Good morning, Professor Medana. All right, so we'll come back to speak to Professor Medana in a moment, but before then, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, Professor Medana will be speaking to us on APC's presidential campaign activities and President Muhammadu Buhari's involvement.
A reflection of the Nigerian never say die spirit. They never stay down. You're always thinking of how to improve. You're always thinking of how to move forward. My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I've been a civil engineer for 18 years. I'm the project manager of Obadana Kaba Road. The Obadana Kaba Road is 43 kilometers built completely of concrete pavement. We started work on December 2016. I remember when we came here, it was virtually lifeless. We're building a road that we know will need very minimal maintenance. It's a road that we don't need to rush back to in 5 years, trying to carry out major maintenance work. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. All the cement we use on this road is from Dangote Cement Factory, which is the largest cement factory in Africa. The sand is from the communities, so people from the community, they end up becoming suppliers. Imagine supplying sand for a 43-kilometer road. It's a lot of money. There are things I've learned from building this concrete road that I never knew 10 years ago. And to be able to lead those people to achieve something worthwhile, something that is of value to them, to the community, to people who have never met us, and I am positive that the road will outlast most of the people who are building the road. Along this route, you have up to 12 communities. People have the confidence to open shops. Why? Because, someone is going through the road, they sell their things, they sell their goods. That is more money for them. We have a number of eateries now, and you want to buy food along the road, you get fresh food, not food that are preserved. No, you get fresh food. So it is good for us, and it's good for the community too. The road is a lot more safer now for everybody, including Halima, including other travelers. So they have better road, lesser crime, shorter journey times, so a lot of advantages. I've had people who go through the roads and they stop to just say, well done. We are proud of what is happening here. We're happy that this is going on in Nigeria in our time. We can see it. They are proud of it. I think it has brought life back to the communities. I feel very proud, extremely proud being a part of this project.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We have Professor Usiju Medana, former APC organizing secretary. We're going to be speaking about the APC campaign and President Muhammadu Buhari stating that he would be joining the campaign trail in 10 states. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Prof. Thank you very much for joining us. Well,
good morning, Doctor. Compliment of the season.
Same to you. Thank you very much. Well, I already defined the subject. Now, the president will join the APC campaign trail after the last time he was at the flag off in Jos. That was on November 15. Now, he has chosen 10 states. Why those 10 states? Why not 24 states that the candidate needs to get at least 25% in those 24 states? And what do you think is the value of his joining the campaign trail for the Ashwaju presidential campaign?
Once again, thank you for having me. You know, the president has given a directive to the FEC members, what I mean the ministers at the first instance, about the campaign. If you look at it, I think it's a strategy for the campaign to take shape. Right now, the campaign has taken shape, and the governance has not suffered. And adding value to the campaign, when you talk about adding value, you should remember the president, right from 2003 to 2015 to 2019, actually he has that value. He still has those supporters intact. Is to consolidate what has been gained. If you look at it horizontally and vertically, the campaign now is taking shape and it has gone very, very, very far. And if you take the 10 states that he has chosen to go, you know, in politics, you have to look at the numbers. You have to look at your strengths. You have to look at where you have to augment. So I think the president's choosing those states is to go and look at them, look at what has been done in those states, and look at what should be done again to the people. And if I will give you some kind of instances, if you look at it, the campaign now has segmented, has gone back to zones. You see the vice presidential candidate, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, has gone to community base to get in touch with those that matters in the communities. So after the rally, you know, rally is like an impressive kind of impression outing to go and show strength, but the vote is in the polling units. And now he has concentrated in the northern part of the country where you have almost 86,000 polling units in the zone.
and more than 4,000 wards, and some 400 and something local governments. This is how this election will go. This is what so many experts are talking about, structure. Structure is not just about the people, the units. Those are the main issue. I think if you could remember, APC did a registration, that is membership registration, in almost 170,000 polling units. In Article 10 of the APC Constitution, it shows how the organizations are. It's only APC that has those polling units organ. And those polling unit organs, you need to get in touch with them. You need to go there and have votes in those polling units. That is what constitutes all your votes. If you come to some of the parties, and you see when people are talking about structure, this and that and this, it means if you look at Labour, they have no candidate in 151 federal constituencies. They have filed only 80 senators out of 109. And if you go by this is what all structure is talking about. And you need to have agents at least from those polling units up to the states where you have the collation official from the ward, then you have in the local government. That is how it is. And that is how election is being done anywhere in the world. And I think APC has done all what it can, and they have all the structures around for them to get votes. I think we're good to go.
All right, thank you, Professor Medana. You said yourself that the value of the president at campaign rally is very high because the president has his own supporters. So one would have thought that he would actually have galvanized those supporters, particularly in states, in his own home state of Katsina, Kano, big state, in terms of number of voters. But away from that, I'd like you to respond to that. But also, in addition to that, would you like to respond to the PDP's statement that perhaps the reason why the president is not going around with the presidential candidates of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is because, why he's foot dragging in their words, is because he's brought more grief than glory, that he's not a candidate to be supported. What's your statement? What's your take on that?
Let me just take us back to 2015. PDP up till now, I don't think they are ready for governance. They are ready to govern people. In 2015, PDP concentrated on shifting blame. They become like an opposition while they were in power. All what they are doing is talking about personality, certificate, age, what have you. Those are the frivolous issues. They are not analyzing their manifesto to people. This is how they should concentrate. They have no business with APC, what APC is doing, who in APC. You see, election is like a football match. If you are playing with Eimba and Barcelona, you have to look at the players in those places. PDP in the northern part of the country, they are going to face almost 14 APC governors. In the southwest, you have this. APC has 21 governors. And these 21 governors, none of them that has come out conspicuously to say, oh, I'm not with this campaign train. The president, you see, 2 ministers that were assigned in the campaign. The spokesman of the campaign, Festus Keyamo, and His Excellency Babatunde Raji Fashola, who is now the director on the EPM, that is Election Planning and Monitoring. So I think that PDP, I'm giving them just a free consultancy here. They should tell what they have done in 16 years and what they think they missed and where they have gone wrong and how are they going to make up to Nigerians. Not talking about personalities. Nigerians are tired of talking of personalities. They want to see something on the ground. They want to see how you are going to consolidate what you have done, not just rhetorics. They are tired of rhetorics.
Okay. But in all fairness, some people will ask you that what records does President Muhammadu Buhari want to campaign on if he draws the campaign trail? Because it's been a litany of failures. I'm sure you just heard about the Edo incident again. Since March last year, it's another train attack. We've not learned our lessons. You talked about staying on the issues.
Your question...
Hang on a minute. Let me finish, please, my question.
Your question...
Professor, let me finish my question, please. I beg you.
Yeah.
You talk about staying on the issues.
Yes, I'm interjecting you because I'm not even hearing you well. Please rephrase your question like just a question, not an implied questions.
Professor, you cannot teach me my job on national
Understand?
TV.
You don't make
Please.
an implied question as a journalist, my brother.
Professor, you cannot teach
Just
me my
ask
job.
Me the way other journalists ask me.
Okay.
I cannot hear you well, please.
The litany of failures, like I said.
No, go to the first question, please, not secondly. I have not heard you well.
What is the president going to campaign on the campaign trail, holding to the fact that there's been a litany of failures in the economy and in security? My second question, you talked about people not addressing the issues. Your campaign, just like other campaigns, and in all fairness and balancing, has been dogged by personal attacks. Your presidential candidate was calling somebody the other day, customs officer, sorts of insult, Mr. Stingy. Most of your campaigns, your presidential candidate doesn't even address the manifesto. He went to Edo State. He said he would turn Yahoo boys around. The Edo State government has issued a statement for blacklisting their youth as Yahoo boys. And it's just been abuses. Your presidential candidate said another candidate will labor in vain. And, it's just been a litany of abuse. So I've not heard anything in the way of manifesto by your political party. So I'm shocked that you're saying that people are not staying on the issues when your party doesn't stay on the issues.
My brother, let me answer your amplified campaign for opposition. Because your questions, I've been watching you for over time. Most of your questions, they are like campaign against APC. When you said comparatively, PDP was in power 16 years, and there is a comparative analysis. If you say we never had it this worse, that means we have to go back and see how we inherited the government, what we have done. You are talking about insecurity. You and I know how this country was. Even in your studio, I must be searched for people to come. Your crew that are here, before they pass my gate, they must be searched with some mental detectives apparatus. Now, let's go back to BBC report of 2004. Between Kaduna and Plateau, 50,000 people were killed. This is BBC report that I'm just giving you. Now, you see violence or crime in nature. You see, if people decided to come here, or any criminal that decided to attack me here, no security can stop him. Why? Because it's the ability of that security to arrest that person. And I think in that Edo, I read that one person was arrested, some people were rescued. And again, if you say what this government have done, I don't have to tell you, or I don't have to, let's look at it this way. In terms of infrastructure, you are a journalist, you can bear witness what this government have achieved conspicuously in terms of infrastructure. Now, there are so many projects that this government is planning, and we talk about loans that are tied to projects. Sometimes people will come and just put rhetorics. People will just come and say, oh, this is what is happening. And I think what our candidate did in Edo, he was attacked and he replied that attack. And I think there is right to reply. And we're selling our manifestos. If you see more than 7,000 support groups, they are in the polling units selling the manifesto in both Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and Pidgin English, going the nook and crannies of this country. Rallies, I said, they are just show of strength, show of power. But the real campaign takes place at the polling units. That is where the votes are. We are concentrating there, and we are selling our own manifesto to voters. most of the people that I'm speaking with you, most of these voters, some of them cannot speak this language that I'm speaking with you. And that's why we have gone down into those places to interact with them. This, we are speaking or just to those elites that have taken position. They have no amount of English can convince most of them. But you have to come and explain to some Nigerians that can just shift ground. So these are the things, my brother.
Well, Prof, should INEC consider the extension of the dates for the collection of PVCs? Because many Nigerians across the country, they are concerned that INEC officials, either they do not show up or they close early, or they face serious difficulties in having access to the PVC. And we're told that if you don't have PVC, you can't vote. So what will you say to INEC?
Yeah,
because if they can't get their PVC, they've been disenfranchised.
Yes, I agree with you totally, and I think it's one of those things. If you look at it, almost 3 million people were affected by floods, and most of them lost their PVC maybe in that very unfortunate thing. And really, they need to, for them even to move. Some have moved from their own polling units to another place. They are now refugees in some part of the states where they were settled. So really, INEC have to look at those issues. And there are so many people that are calling for INEC to extend the collection for the PVC. So if they can do that, it will be continuously, and to me, personally, my opinion, even on the some days to the election, people can walk in and collect their PVC and vote. There is nothing there. I don't think there should be restriction on collection of PVC. It's not a campaign. And once you must have voters for you to even go for let's say, to open the polling units or polling stations. In Anambra election, I think the analysis shows that there were polling units with one voter, and it's important that person must vote. So if he doesn't have the PVC, how is he going to vote? So really, I'm appealing personally to INEC to look into this situation, because I have seen the statistic is alarming. So they should allow maybe extension for the collection of the PVC. And I have seen serious campaign for people to go and collect their PVC to exercise their franchise.
All right, thank you. Since we're on the topic of PVCs, I'd like to ask you, Professor Medana, if your party, the APC, have any concerns around the readiness of INEC to conduct this election. The president, who is under your party, has promised Nigerians free, fair, and credible elections, and Nigerians are looking forward to him, fulfilling that promise. What's your assessment of INEC's readiness for the elections?
No, INEC actually, if you look at it, is one of the improvement, one of the things that I will give my friend Rufai. Even the improvement in our electioneering, the budget is almost ready, and INEC has been supported by the government. We have seen election not unlike the PDP times that you see only one party will be winning. You see a PDP, APC governor will be defeated at the poll. So INEC, the parties are not complaining. If you look at the IPAC, they have given kudos to what the INEC is doing. International observers, they are preparing for the monitoring and observation of the election. And I think this is a good thing. Now our democracy is becoming more stronger and stronger. And if the government of the day is not doing anything, you can't just have all those things. And you know the president, and he says he's going to do it. And he has done it in some of the states. Even in Edo, where the PDP, a governor, they come and won election. And you see, there is nothing. And I think he deserves commendation on that.
Okay, two things. You quoted the BBC report. You said 2004. Maybe you might want to check it again. Is it 2014?
Yes.
And you said 50,000 people.
Check it.
Hang on a minute. You said 50,000 people died in the report.
50,000 people were checked. Just go Google, you see 50,000 people were killed in communal clashes.
50,000 people were killed in communal clashes in 2014. All right, I'll leave it out for subject to fact check.
Yes.
Anyway, but I've checked it out and I've seen what happened.
No, it's in 2004. 2004, between Plateau and Kaduna states.
Okay. So moving on from there, I would also like to ask you this. You talked about your manifesto, and you talked about the fact that, yes, you've been campaigning hard, people in the grassroots, about your manifesto and all of that, which is good, which is a good way to campaign. But why is it that your candidates just spends all the time to abuse other candidates? Nigerians want to hear the issues, not abuses. Why is that the case?
I think I have replied you. I have seen the candidate of one party, Atiku Abubakar, where he said that he stopped our candidate from bringing drugs into this country. You're not talking about that. I have seen the town hall meeting of Peter Obi, what he was saying, and you are not talking about that. I don't know whether you have a particular interest in our candidates, because I have seen series of any APC member that appeared on your program. Sometimes you leave the ethics of journalism, my brother. You'll be attacking us as if you are a campaigner.
Much you do to spare me from doing my job. You can't stop me from asking the objective questions I'll always ask.
It's not doing your job.
So you can keep playing your politics and enjoy yourself.
Your questions are implied questions. Let me just tell you, Dr. Ruben was a spokesman of the president under PDP. But since he left that place, he adjusted himself to a journalist. I pray that you can do that to yourself.
Professor Medina, we thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We wish you all the best.
It's time for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Rise News analyst Manuel Lefeni join us to review top stories in today's newspaper. Stay with us.
Dis na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always still in the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
New Naira notes? Don't panic. Here's what you need to know. Ensure to make deposits of all old banknotes before January 31, 2023. To make the process seamless for you, all Fidelity Bank branches will be open till 6 p.m. on weeks and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays to allow for cash deposits only. Also, please note that bank charges on all cash deposits have been suspended by the CBN. However, charges shall still be applied on cash withdrawals. The new banknotes can be accessed at any Fidelity Bank branch nationwide from December 15, 2022. Old banknotes will remain in circulation till January 31, 2023, when they will cease to be legal tender, as directed by the CBN. For more inquiries, follow us on our social media channels or email us at true.serve@fidelitybank.ng. You can also call 0700 3035 489 or reach us on WhatsApp on 090 3000 5252. Thank you for banking with us.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufa. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Yes. We'll start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, INEC releases final list of presidential National Assembly candidates for polls. Akpabio, Nwaobochi, Machina make list. 4,223 candidates contesting for 469 federal legislative positions. 48 million out of 93.5 million eligible voters are youths, Commission revealed. Now, of course, the independent National Electoral Commission, of course, has published the final list of candidates for the National Assembly, the Presidential National Assembly elections. And of course, it's pursuant to the Electoral Act 2022 and Item 8 of the timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections. But we must note that we know there are still litigations at various stages. So this list can still change. And INEC, as we have seen in the past, of course, prepared for the last minute. Even if there is a court judgment, of course, it has to be executed. I mean, as it pertains to candidates who are still being hounded from the party primaries. So this may not be finalists, but quite interesting. 48 million out of the 93.5 million eligible voters are youths. So the youths have a big role to play in this election. Will they turn up? We don't want to see youths playing football on election day on empty streets. And as we have seen very recently, the youth seems galvanized. So how they shape the coming election left to be seen, whether they can really take the destiny of the nation in their hands. Of course, one of the points former President Olusegun Obasanjo raised in his famous letter, the latest in his letter series, is that the youths should take the destiny in their hands, of course, from the old guards, if you will. Now, the other story on the front page of this day, 32 passengers kidnapped by AK-47 wielding gunmen in Edo train station attack. One regained freedom, several injured as a deputy governor visits scene. Federal government condemns incident, says security agencies making efforts to rescue victims. Atiku expresses concern, insists presidential election is all about salvaging Nigeria. Of course, other newspapers are reporting this story as the main story of the day. The Guardian newspaper, search ongoing for 31 abductees in Edo State train station attack. One victim escaped, suspect nabbed, undergoing interrogation. Police, vigilante, hunters pursue armed kidnappers. Edo Deputy Governor Shuaibu visits scene. Presidency Atiku Okowa, others condemn attack. Also, in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, Edo train attack, ex-police officer, nursing mother, 3 others rescued, 32 abducted, 1 escapes, suspect arrested, train service won't be disrupted. NRC. Yes, but the lead story of Daily Trust, insecurity first starts despite Buhari's December deadline. 671 killed, 1,321 kidnapped since ultimatum. Attack reduced in Kaduna, other. Southeast records highest killings of policemen. Experts harp on intelligence gathering, community policing. Yes, this is the situation. Now, the president gave that order. And when attention of members of the ruling party is drawn to the fact that there's still insecurity in the land, widespread, this is the number. Since the president gave the deadline, December deadline, since then, 671 persons have been killed, 1,321 kidnapped since the ultimatum. So when attention is drawn to the fact that there is still insecurity and the Buhari administration, and of course the ruling party that is campaigning, it shouldn't be a matter of attacking somebody's character or contesting, teaching how to ask questions, because insecurity is real in Nigeria today. It is widespread. Going to 2014 to look for, to scavenge for figures does not change the fact that there's a widespread insecurity in the land. Train attack again. Quite unfortunate. You thought we have learned some lessons from the last attack on the Kaduna bound train. But alas, a train station in the middle of somewhere, far from the town, no security. Of course, these bandits, headers, armed, have taken advantage of the fact that there was no security in place to attack innocent Nigerians who want to use this train service. Yes, we now have train services in many areas, but the administration has not done well. Because the last time, former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi said, oh, I asked for security gadgets. It was not produced. It was not purchased. Now, what are we going to say about this situation? We hope all efforts will be made to get these Nigerians who have been kidnapped out of kidnappers' den and on time, so that they don't suffer for too long. Now, the Punch newspaper also reporting that story, Edo train attack. Soldiers, police, vigilantes track abductors, 31 passengers missing. Now, above the masthead, electricity consumers demand new tariff reversal. Now, the Nation newspaper, Tinubu, I'll be fair to all tribes. APC candidate unstoppable, says Kwara Governor Kanduje, is a product of unity. Of course, the Tinubu campaign is moving from state to state. Yes, they were in Kwara State over the weekend. And the candidate of the APC. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu promising he will be fair to all tribes. Yes, I'm sure Nigerians are taking note of his promises. If he wins, of course, he will be the next president. But we'll have to wait till February 25 to see how the campaigns of the various political parties are shaping up and are impacting on the electorate. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, yes, 30 missing in Edo train station kidnapped. Now, if we just look at the Vanguard newspaper, 2023 outlook, economy will rebound with credible polls. Bank CEOs are the one making that prediction. Well, we just hope that that will be the case. But we have to vote the right man. And whoever becomes president come May 29, 2023, has his job well cut out with the shape of the Nigerian economy, with huge debt overhang on the nation. But again, it's good to be optimistic. Business Day also reporting Nigeria's yawning deficit signals further breach of CBN Act. Yes, breach in CBN Act in terms of ways and means, but the president is asking for securitization of what has been borrowed by through ways and means.
Breach of other part of
yes, let's just look at the foreign newspapers quickly. Of course, Prince Harry hogging the headlines for good reasons, for bad reasons. It's left for you to decide. The Times, royals were complicit in Meghan's pain, says Duke. Harry's hit out, but uses ITV interview to call for reconciliation and insists monarchy are not racists. Of course, the Daily Telegraph also has a story about Harry. William and Kate stereotyped Meghan, claims Prince Harry. Duke of Sussex says Prince and Princesses of Wales created a barrier with his wife and never accepted her from the get-go. Ruben, Rufai, and
so I'll quickly like to talk.
Rufai.
For the want of time, because I will have needed time to explain it, but for the want of time, there were 5 laws breached by this budget. 5 laws, 5 major parts of the CBN Act breached. What they're trying to say there is that your deficit is not supposed to be more than a certain percentage to your GDP.
5%.
Right? 5% to your GDP. But what they have done is that the deficit is more than 5% of the GDP. And the last time they did it,
you mean the lawmakers passing it now?
No, they have not passed it now. I'll tell you what happened. The last time they tried to do it was during COVID. But they passed it then because of the emergency of the situation of COVID. This time, they are not even willing to take it through the lawmakers to pass it again. So what we have done is that we have mastered bad behavior. We have mastered violation of fiscal discipline laws. That's what we have mastered now. The last time, during COVID, they still took it to the National Assembly. And they said, okay, because of the exigencies of COVID, and the fact that it was an emergency, they allow it slide. Now they are not even allowing it. They are not even passing through. There's no decency and decorum. They are just breaking the law flagrantly. Now, as we speak today. So that's part of the deficit law that they have breached, coupled with 5 other different ones. I mean, we know of the ones of the Finance Act not signed into law because that's the basis on which it's signed and everything. Probably when we have a new government, they will have to have a new budget, maybe by June.
Anyway, the finance bill has not been passed yet. The president has said they should take a second look at it. All the points that have been raised, about the procurement.
No, the finance bill was passed, but not signed.
No, it's not. That means it's not been signed.
It's not been signed. It's not been signed.
It's not law yet. We don't have a finance act as you speak now. So maybe they have enough time to take a second look at it. The Minister of Finance has promised that all of that will be done within 4 days, and we keep watching. But It's important that stakeholders have input, and it's important that the controversial aspects of it, particularly all those taxes that manufacturers and SMEs say will translate into overburdening them. These are issues that they have to look at. As Muda Yusuf was saying, the law should be made for the people, not that you use the law to punish the people. Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel Efenu.
Thank you. Now it's time for a short break. When we return, Aaron Akerojola will be here with Global Sports Updates. Stay with us.
The Zenith Better Life promo is back, and it's bigger and better. You could be one of 20 lucky customers to win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from now till January 31st, 2023. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account and maintain a minimum balance of 5,000 Naira. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Papa, mama, brother, sister, this Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody
Oh yes, Lagos people, Papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money wey be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more Baba Sope. They no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses, and now only one man fit do this job. His name na Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando. He can't carry one ogbonge person as the deputy governor. Her name na Funke Akindele Jennifer. My people, what do we wait for? Make we vote for light, vote for change. No be the kind change where they vote before. This one na the original change. How Amumu don't do. Pay the pay.
Everybody
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. For updates on sports stories across the globe, Aaron Akerojola joins us. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to
Good
you.
to see you. Welcome
Yes, it's
back.
good to be back. Hey, good morning, Doctor. Doctor, welcome back. Thank you very much. Rufai, good morning. Okay, let's start it off from the FA Cup yesterday. Third round of matches were played, and more importantly, Chelsea's rotten path continues. It's unfortunate that right now they cannot engineer a victory at the moment as Manchester City piled on the pressure. 4-0 was how we actually ended, leaving them red-faced on the day, and Riyad Mahrez getting a brace for himself, and Graham Potter asking, where is it going all wrong? But he's saying he needs time to be able to exert his dominance in this team and actually form the team in his own image. But for now, Chelsea are just way off the mark, 10th on the table in the Premier League, out of the FA Cup already, out of also the League Cup. So you look at that and you say to yourself, against the same opponents, it's not good enough. Okay, away from that, Arsenal will be hoping to do one better today. One man is primed to take center stage. He's been out injured since last season, in and out of the team ever since then, and they'll be hoping that Elmi Smith-Rowe will be having a stereo role today. as the London team takes on Oxford. Let's see how that one plays out today. In the Spanish Premier Division, Barcelona on the day had two players just literally. It was a very, very keenly contested game, but both players were sent off for petulance. Talking about Ferran Torres and Savic. Ultimately, Barcelona won the game thanks to that particular strike from Ousmane Dembele. But this was a high point in the game whereby these players just did not show any kind of decorum. Also, Real Madrid on the day were on the losing side, and you look at how things played out. They went against Valencia on the day, and Samuel Chukwueze and the gang engineered a massive victory coming from behind to actually win that particular one, 2-1. In the La Liga table, you look at that, Barcelona are right now looking like they might just be peeping this particular one. When you look at the number of points that have been garnered after several games have been played. So Barcelona, top of the table, Real Madrid playing catch-up. Sociedad, Betis, then Atletico Madrid far off the pace, some would say. Now, away from things in Europe. Now, there seems to be a transfer merry-go-round going around. That's what happens when you have a behemoth actually make a move to a club like Al Nassr. Cristiano Ronaldo has moved to Al Nassr, we know that. But because they wanted to make way for Cristiano Ronaldo to be registered, Vincent Aboubakar, the Cameroonian, has been shipped out. Right now, there are talks that he will be going to Besiktas to replace Vegas, who had a stellar World Cup, and maybe Vegas might be able to come to Manchester United. So there's been a lot of transfer merry-go-round going around the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo literally has actually moved from Manchester United to Al Nassr. Well, let's see how it actually goes. But some good news actually came in yesterday, and I'm not talking about Damon Hamlin. Last week, Monday, for the Bills, they got the shock of their life when they saw this man collapse on the field of play. He has suffered from a cardiac arrest, but he was happy to watch his team, the Buffalo Bills, go out for the first time since that particular scare. And they celebrated him. They paid massive homage to his number and what he represents to the club, the 24-year-old, by the way. And the Bills actually had a huge victory against the New England Patriots. 35-23 was how it actually ended. And finally, here in Nigeria, Bendel Insurance returning to the top flight after a very long time. Traditional teams, and yesterday in Uyo puts in Akwa United to the sword. 2-0 was how we actually ended, and I'm sure those people in Edo State will be celebrating. But of course, you know the celebrations have been muted, no thanks to the attack that actually happened yesterday in Edo State.
I mean, great side, Bendel Insurance. I mean, they've been there, formidable team.
Yeah.
Produced lots of Nigerian great footballers. And we're really excited about the prospect. But I just want to talk about Darman, what happened. It's another seminal moment in American football. I think the first analysis of what they're saying actually is not that he had any congenital condition with the heart before now, but the hits by the other athlete probably caught one rhythm. You know, they had beats according to rhythm, so probably caught one rhythm and intersected the beat at that point in time. And once it did that, they had shut off for a couple of minutes. And that's probably what happened.
Taking me back to the movie Concussion and all the impact.
So that's probably what happened at that time. And this also brings, to the fore the conversation on American football. We know they wear headgear. Probably, would they be wearing hard braces now because of this? The conversation is out there in the future, but we're happy that he's back. He was able to watch his team. There was first a controversy back and forth whether his teammates will be able to keep playing. But let's see what the prognosis is.
No, but they even wear some sort of protection for themselves.
On the chest, but he wasn't wearing this, obviously. That's why the impact. So, but we just hope that he gets back to his career, which, I don't know, might be doubtful, but we've had people that have gotten back to their career. Christian Eriksen is doing quite well.
Example,
but he has to do that with a pacemaker, and he discovered. But some people were not that lucky. I remember sitting at the platform in London, hearing Eric Mwamba speak. His career was gone forever, but we're excited it's back on stream. Chelsea, I think Graham Potter needs to go. Somebody told me something. Somebody told me that even if Graham Potter is, cousins with Harry Potter, no magic can save him in Chelsea.
But injuries have not been kind to him. Let's put it that
way.
But
he's not been able to get his act on that team.
Injuries have not been kind
Even if he has the full complement of the team, he can't do anything better. It's not time for him yet. Maybe he should still have waited for some more
time. Clearly, Chelsea is out of form. Only one win, in 7 matches in all competitions. And yesterday, the match was even won and lost by the end of the first half.
Yes.
But the more embarrassing thing that occurred was that the fans were asking for Roman Abramovich. And they were asking for Thomas Tuchel.
That would never happen again.
That in itself was an indictment, of the new owners and also of the manager in charge. Then, of course, you said Cristiano Ronaldo going to Al Nassr and all that. Some people are saying, oh, he's following the money. Well, sports is about money. But the more interesting fact is that the Saudi Arabians, they waived their marriage law for him. In Saudi Arabia, you are not allowed to live with your girlfriend if you are not married. But for Cristiano Ronaldo,
you will make an exception.
They've made an exception for him. They said, don't worry, we'll turn a blind eye. So, and he's very happy because he can live with his girlfriend, Miss Georgina Rodriguez. Yes. So that's the Australian Open.
Doctor, okay, yeah.
Oh, you want to comment?
No, I just want to say
wives and girlfriends.
No. Okay, Doctor, move on.
It's Australia Open, and we understand Naomi Osaka is going to pull out. Her rank is now about 42 because she's not really been competing for a while. Venus Williams, who was given a wild card entry, won't be able to make it. She's injured. And then Carlos Alcaraz also will not be there. But your good friend, Djokovic, will be back after all that debacle over vaccination. But now the world has opened up more, and it looks like
all is forgotten. All is forgiven. Maybe all is forgotten. Let's see how it goes. The Australian Open is unfortunate that injuries might mar the 2023 Australian Open. Let's see what happens. Let's see what Melbourne hosts for us.
I was just going to say that kudos Arsenal. Obviously, it's their season, doing great in the Premiership. Let me land.
This is just halfway.
I'm just saying it's their season so far. It's still too.
They haven't
we can't call it yet. They haven't it yet. We can't call it yet as to them topping the tables at the end of the Premiership, season. But also FA Cup. If they do win tonight against Oxford, they'll be facing Man City with great football. And I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully they bring it home for Arsenal tonight.
Please, a lot of people. You can't say that at the middle of the season. A lot will happen. A lot will happen, and
thank you.
The future is not yet set.
Thank you.
So let's see how it goes.
And as we move on, let's say congratulations to Michael Ango, the Nigerian who has been appointed the head of the Federation of Global Motorsport. Looks like motorsport is also, showing some prospects here. Okay, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
It's time now for a short break. When we return, Ojinika Okpe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and in check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN, and when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So, it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Periwinkle Empire, a collection of high-end homes and condos, strategically located in the very stunning and timeless landscape of Lekki Phase 1 and Victoria Island. Each development is deliberately crafted for ultimate comfort, with features and facilities to provide a lifetime of limitless convenience. A perfect choice for both investors and home buyers, these luxury towers merges comfort with your lifestyle. The ultimate live, work, and play.
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar.
Morning, Esther.
She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for her.
No phones at the table, please. Esther? I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I need a room to rent in your house.
Okay, where do you work?
I'm a nurse.
That means you won't owe me rent. Congratulations, young lady. You have yourself a house.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So, how much is the rent?
90,000 naira. Oh, but wait, where are you from?
I am from Akamata.
Akamata what? Akamata in my house? If you know how you got into my house, please get out right away. My spirit and that of Akamata people don't have anything to do together.
Sir, what have I done?
Your people from Akamata are known for bad things. That is what they represent, and you can't live in my house. Just get out right away.
What's going on?
Leave my house, young lady. Yes, our differences extend to our languages, culture, food, and even belief. But we are bound together by the cord of love. With one heart, with one voice, we will make Nigeria a hub of greatness, a place where the people live as one.
This message is brought to you from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Upe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinek.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How was your weekend?
Very well.
Fantastic. You know, I saw you without your glasses on This Day Live. You debriefing. I need the debriefing after the show.
Well,
good morning.
Did
you see? Oh, I didn't watch it till the end. But that's amazing that you're able to do both. You do the contacts and then you do the glasses. You have to teach me.
Yeah, I can see without glasses. Just for reading.
We'll talk about it after the show. Ayo, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank
Perfect.
you. How are
Good
you
morning,
too?
Rufai.
Morning, Oji.
Perfect. Well, all right.
And I saw you with your glasses on
Yeah,
Sunday
I wear
morning.
glasses. I do. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In Brazil, supporters of the country's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, who refused to accept the electoral defeat, stormed Congress, the Supreme Court, and the presidential palace in the country's capital, Brasilia, on Sunday, just a week after the inauguration of his leftist rival, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Thousands of demonstrators bypassed security barricades, climbed on the roofs, broke windows and invaded all three buildings, many of them wearing green and yellow, the colors of the flag that have also come to symbolize the Bolsonaro government. In Senegal, President Macky Sall on Sunday declared 3 days of mourning and has promised to take measures to improve road safety after a collision between two buses in Genevi village left 40 people dead and dozens injured. Preliminary investigations suggested that one of the buses suffered a burst tire and collided head-on with an oncoming bus in one of the deadliest accidents in recent years. In Nigeria, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has reiterated his call for the urgent need of state policing across the country after gunmen suspected to be herdsmen over the weekend kidnapped at least 32 passengers in a train station in Edo State. The police said the travelers were waiting to board a train heading to Delta State when the abductors stormed the train station with AK-47 rifles shooting sporadically in the air, leaving many injured with bullet wounds. The latest abduction of passengers comes 10 months after terrorists attacked a train on its way to Kaduna from the country's capital Abuja on March 28, 2022, killing 14 passengers. Under sports, two-time Australian Open champion Naomi Osaka withdrew from this year's championships over the weekend, just 8 days before the start of the tournament. No reason was given for the 25-year-old Japanese player's withdrawal. Osaka, who won in Melbourne in 2019 and 2021, has not played on the WTA Tour since September and has slipped to 42 in world rankings. In May 2021, Osaka pulled out of the French Open after revealing she had suffered long bouts of depression since winning her first Grand Slam title in 2018, and in September of that year, she announced that she will take a break from the sport. Finally, under entertainment, the pre-recorded interview of the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, with Britain's ITV aired on Sunday and has generated more headlines. Harry, during the interview, told ITV journalist Tom Bradby that he cried only once after his mother, Princess Diana, died in 1997 at her funeral. The prince says he feels guilty about not showing emotion when he and his brother, Prince William, greeted crowds of mourners outside Kensington Palace. Harry blamed the royal family for their stiff upper lip ethos, saying he had learned from the family maxim that crying was not an option.
I cried once at the burial. And I go into detail about how strange it was and how actually there was some guilt that I felt, and I think William felt as well, by walking around the outside of Kensington Palace. 50,000 bouquets of flowers to our mother, and there we were shaking people's hands, smiling. I've seen the videos, right? I look back over it all, and the wet hands that we were shaking, we couldn't understand why their hands were wet, but it was all the tears that they were wiping away.
Well, let's begin what's trending. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, over the weekend replied to recent comments by his opponent in the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, during a campaign rally in Ondo State, tagged Obi as Mr. Stingy, alleging that the former Anambra State governor watched his people suffer while saving the state funds rather than save the people. Obi, who alongside his running mate, Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed, appeared at a town hall meeting organized by Channels TV on Sunday, stressed that no one could fault him for refusing to steal public funds, and no one has ever accused him of corruption. Peter Obi went on to say that one of the things killing Nigeria today is the Corruption Perception Index. Tinubu, during the rally in Ondo State, also called Peter Obi a heartless governor and cautioned Nigerians to beware of salesmen selling fake merchandise.
It is true that the heartless governor will owe back money when hungry school children, roads and clinics went into disrepair. Neither the city dweller nor farmer prospers during such a time. In the end, he received to save the people because he preferred to save the money. And he claimed to be a party labor. Is that labor? Is that labor? You will have to be laboring under a terrible delusion if you think he will do a better job for this nation than he did for Anambra State. Buyers, beware. A salesman selling a fake merchandise. Beware of people like Obi. My people, you cannot entrust your future or that of our nation to Mr. Sell Everything, Atiku, or the stingy Mr. Obi.
Tinubu's rally in Ondo State generated a lot of reactions. Let me take some. This person wrote, when Obi was governor, he paid stipends to the elderly, paid salaries, paid pensions, built infrastructure, and he still saved. The people didn't go hungry. Countries with a huge foreign reserve are the most economically viable. Tinubu just endorsed Obi for president. While Jasper wrote, Peter Obi is financially prudent. He ran a successful 8 years without borrowing, but still saved. His savings was used to build the airport by his successor. APC, on the other hand, has incurred 77 trillion naira debt for the next administration with hunger in the land. While Collins wrote, Nigerians, notice how Peter Obi and Dati has answered questions on the Channel TV town hall meeting, and not for once have they mentioned Tinubu, Atiku, or Buhari's name. They are so engrossed on issues of national development instead of gossiping colossal failures. I mean, I think that this person's tweet is completely what we need to hear from these presidential candidates. I mean, I know Dr. Abati is always talking about the vitriol and how it is against the law for these candidates to continue to insult one another. I felt that was quite unnecessary, Dr. Abati. They didn't only insult Peter Obi, he also said that Atiku would sell our country.
Yes, he said reject Mr. Privatize and avoid Mr. Stingy, P2B. But I mean, maybe we shouldn't dwell on this. We've made a point here again and again that the Electoral Act is very clear about the need to be civil, about the need to avoid toxicity, harsh language, hate speech, and all of that. But the reason is that nobody is enforcing that section of the Electoral Act, or nobody is making enough effort to sanction these political parties, because there are penalties under the law that you don't go out of your way, just to lower the other person in the estimation of others. However, some people will say during political season, it's standard practice for politicians to demarcate each other. But if it now becomes standard fare, then of course, that will be setting the wrong type of example, particularly for spokespersons and surrogates who see the body language or the verbal missiles that their principals, eject like bullets, that they themselves would take it to another level. But it's not helpful. What is more helpful is the constructive message that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu talked about, at that rally. He talked, for example, about agriculture. He said he's going to invest a lot in agriculture. And what he does in particular, he tries to tailor his message to the particular audience that he's talking to. He knows that Ondo State has a lot of, agricultural products. And he was talking to the farmer that, he will make the farmer king again. He talked about reintroducing the commodity exchange boards, right? Okay, you may argue about, the value of those commodity exchange boards. After all, not too long ago, in Abuja, there was a commodity exchange of what value has that been. And then he talked about strategic investment in infrastructure. And he told the people of Ondo State about bitumen, and in Ondo State, they have enormous bitumen deposits. And of course, he got publicly endorsed, as you would have expected, by the governor of Ondo State. Those are the kind of issues that we need to talk about, to ask him, what are your practical ideas about this commodity exchange board? What exactly do you want to do in terms of investment and infrastructure? Peter Obi, the same weekend, was in Osogbo speaking for himself. So it's for the Nigerian people to make their choice. Yes. If he says Atiku is Mr. Privatize, okay. Is it possible for anybody to sell everything on top of our heads in this space? It's not possible. Okay, Mr. Stingy. In fact, Peter Obi's supporters say, in fact, they see that as a commendation. Yeah. Because what he was invariably saying, is that, look, Peter Obi is a very prudent person. That's how his own spokespersons turned it around. But can we stay on message and focus on the issues, particularly now that President Muhammadu Buhari is going to join the APC campaign in testis, right? You can't have the president there. You are using the presence and the platform of the president to be abusing other people. That would look a bit untidy.
Yes, Ayo Rufai, really quickly.
Yes, very quickly, just towing Doctor's line in terms of the fact that we should start to hold candidates to account to speak to the issues as opposed to, maligning the character of the other person. And let me just put in as well to make a stronger statement around the fact that INEC ought to start making some of these candidates and surrogate examples. You can't have a law that has penalties spelled out without administering the penalties, especially when you see the candidates flout the laws. Very important. It seems like child's play now, but until things start to get really violent, then we begin to run around. Remember, we've said before, proactive, not reactive. And then very quickly, he spoke about student loans. Reuters did a very robust report on that, and we had a conversation here off air as to how possible, the possibility or viability of his proposal to, of course, to having student loans. Of course, the supporters will cheer and really encourage that because it's great sound bites. But when you begin to unpack this, in Nigeria that we live in, if you look at other countries that are more prosperous, if I put it that way, than Nigeria, who have implemented student loans, it is a burden on the people and on the nation. And so perhaps when they make promises like this, let us use a fine-tooth comb to really analyze and see that they're not just making empty promises.
Rufai?
So for me, the sad reality is that we've lost it as a country. I love campaign season because politics and campaign season is the extravaganza for ideas. But what do we see here? A lot of abuses. And please, I think it is just our candidates, and especially this candidate that we're talking about, that chooses to be this way. See, you can actually attack your opponents in campaigns, but you attack them with facts on the things they have done. Look at the Hostons in the UK. They were attacking each other based on facts. You did this, you did that. I have no problems when you say, Peter Obi, I want to attack you. In Anambra, what was XYZ percentage point of unemployment? That's a fact. But when you start to launch all sorts of attack based on the person of people, calling them heartless, is it because of politics? And you see, we think it's a joke, but we are setting this country on fire. And these are the people that want to run Nigeria. They're already starting a third world war. All of them, they don't even get to talk about the 77 trillion debts. They don't talk about how they're going to balance the budget. They don't talk about exciting ideas. I would have thought that on the campaign train, they will talk about how to solve insecurity problem with these Edo attacks that happen.
That's a very valid point.
But they don't talk about that. It's constantly abuse and how to discredit people. But we can't continue that way as a country. And this is sad commentary, Oji. I wanted to say more, but because of time.
Thank you. Well, on a lighter note, Tinubu held a town hall meeting with young people over the weekend at the Chida Event Center in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The meeting was hosted by the governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, who is also the National Youth Coordinator of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. The APC flag bearer at the end of the meeting displayed his youthfulness by dancing to Kiss Daniel's hit song, Buga. You know you started this Buga trend on a rise. You know you did that.
I mean, I love his dance moves.
I thought that was really cute.
I think it was really cute. He did what they call Papa's Buga.
Yes.
I just did.
I think he's a good dancer.
But sometimes I just wish Nigeria's economy can truly Buga.
Oh,
like
I love that.
Daniel is Buga.
Well, all right. All right, let's take another story. There is a growing apprehension among many Nigerians who believe that their voting rights have been trampled upon and as such will be disenfranchised by the Independent National Electoral Commission, as many are yet to receive their permanent voter cards from the commission. In Edo State, citizens staged a protest blocking a major highway, demanding for their voting rights.
Opa is blocked because of the PVC.
No roads. No PVC, no road. Let them do their work.
The road is empty.
I cannot stop highlighting this issue in Nigeria. On Friday, we discussed, a polling unit where they were, closed at 1 p.m. That was in Abuja instead of, the usual 4:30 p.m. And now these people in Edo State, also in Lagos, there was another video that was trending over the weekend, about some parties or people, alleged parties, going in to stop votes, like to even cancel names. It became even a tribal allegation. This man here, they accused him of, removing Igbo names from the register, which was quite appalling to see. I know, Rufai, you had a comment about these people in Edo State. If you can make that comment really quickly, and then...
Okay, real quickly. Please, INEC, make it as much as possible very easy for people to pick up their PVCs. Please don't disenfranchise people, but I don't support blocking of the road. You could have protests, you could have carried your placards by the wayside. You can also go to the courts, and I think people should start even thinking of going to the courts to be able to seek for extension, because a lot of people will be disenfranchised already. So I think people should start filing suits in the court, and probably we can get INEC to seek extension for this, because this process is not even working at all. People are not picking up their PVC. But I don't support blocking the road, because that can lead to more mayhem and all of that. Please.
Well, yes, while I do agree with you that it might lead to more mayhem, and yes, there are better ways to resolve issues. I just think that this is a representation of the feelings of frustration of people in Nigeria. And unfortunately, they leave no room for us but to take on, these kinds of action. But like has been said again and again, perhaps it's time for INEC to consider extending the date 22nd of January for the last date of collection. It is not realistic.
They have to. Dr. Abati.
Okay, the deadline that INEC has given is January 22, 2023. And people have said, given the nightmare that persons have faced trying to get their PVCs, well, maybe it makes sense within the timetable framework to extend it. Maybe it will also make sense to get more ad hoc staff to assist. And for INEC to be able to answer the question, why are PVCs being found in drainage channels and in wrong locations? Because, look, these young people who are fighting were told out of 93.5 million voters, 48 million of them are young persons. So, this is part of it. You just caught the anger of young people. And if PVC is important, if this is a major election that will determine the future, I think the average citizen has a right to say he or she should be given the opportunity to make an informed choice.
Well, thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow. And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rotu Sodiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. You see the Arise News channel.
Dis na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
My people, my name is Emeka. Mekus Kamat. Let me get all this motor. I don't learn my lesson. Somebody come buy motor for my hand, carry big money, come give me. Now when we get bust, now my eye open. I don't know say that 419 be. Now when EFCC babam, now they come bab me too. Now he make me they warn you. All of them want to do business like me. where they carry big money. Well, sometimes I go carry transfer, carry bring back. Yeah, make una shine in my eye because the special control unit against money laundering, what they call SCUMO, they don't want to say if the money pass 5 million naira for individual, no collect them. If he pass 10 million naira for company, no collect them. Carry and go where? Bank. If you not do them like that, 250,000 naira for every day where this offense happen. Or they go suspend your license, or they go cuckoo, shut them down, mata for your hand. No talk say, I know 1 year.
This message is from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Is the greatest threat? The lawyers, the judges, the politicians?
MKO, Victoria, Adiola.
Stand back from me, please.
But right at the premises of the vehicle inspection office.
And you can see cars being burnt, buildings razed.
You can see the smoke, the fire, the way it is going on.
The level of poverty is almost unimaginable.
The Morning Show. We never stop talking about the things that matter to you.
Quiet on set, please. We're going live in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Arise News. You're watching the Global Business Report. I'm Rosi Sodiri, coming to you from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines across the business world today. What COVID worries? The reopening of China's economy is stoking optimism in the global markets. On the other side of the coin, Goldman Sachs is set to cut about 3,200 jobs this week after a cost review. Qatar has signed a $6 billion petrochemical deal in JV partnership with Chevron Phillips Chemical. And we have a special report on student loans and Nigerians' education tax. It's the Global Business Report. Do stay tuned. We have the Asian markets heading up this week on the back of the optimism around China's reopening. The Shanghai Composite Index in mainland China, the Kospi in Korea, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, the Nikkei 225 in Japan, all pointing upwards. Crypto prices also following in the same direction as equities. Bitcoin back above $17,000, Ethereum over 1,300, Binance and XRP all heading upwards as well. The dollar on the back of the jobs numbers we saw and the weakening in wage inflation. We've seen the dollar weakening a bit to a basket of currencies, the euro, the pound, the yen. It did appreciate a bit against the Canadian dollar. And oil prices also pointing upwards earlier this morning. $80.87 for Brent crude, $75.82 for West Texas Intermediate, the North American grade. So on the news that's pushing up markets, travelers streamed into China by air, land, and sea on Sunday, many eager for long-awaited reunions as Beijing opened borders that have been all but shut since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. China's Security Daily reported today that 6 Chinese cities, including Jinan, Qingdao, and Changsha, have announced GDP growth targets for next year, with the majority targeting between 5.5% to 7% in the hope that changes in government policy will lead to economic recovery. Judging from the 2023 economic development goals, there's fresh confidence of an economic recovery in the world's second largest economy. Total number of dwellings approved in Australia fell by a seasonally adjusted 9% in November, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. It was the third consecutive monthly decline. The result was driven by private sector dwellings, excluding detached homes, which decreased by 22.7%, according to the Bureau. Approvals for private sector detached houses also fell by 2.5%. Police in Brazil have regained control of the main government complex over the weekend after thousands of supporters of the former president, Jair Bolsonaro, stormed the Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace. Supporters of Brazil's far-right former president invaded and defaced the country's Congress, presidential palace, and Supreme Court on Sunday. The uprising, which lasted a little over 3 hours, underlined the severe polarization that still grips the country days after the inauguration of leftist President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who defeated Bolsonaro in the October election. Qatar has signed a $6 billion deal with Chevron Phillips Chemicals to build a plant, including the biggest ethane tracker in the Middle East, converting natural gas into polyethylene and other plastics. The Ras Laffan Petrochemicals complex, which will produce 2.1 million tons of ethylene a year, along with 1.7 million tons of polyethylene derivatives, will come on stream in 2026.
I'm also pleased to welcome Mr. Bruce Chin, the President and CEO of Chevron Phillips Chemicals, and Mr. Mark Leshire, the President and CEO of Phillips 66, as well as our selected EPC contractors, to this announcement of the final investment decision and the signing ceremony of the Ras Laffan Petrochemical project, with a cost of about $6 billion. This capacity has been raised to 2.1 million tons per annum, making it the largest ethane cracker in the Middle East and one of the largest in the world. In addition, this integrated complex, which is expected to begin production in 2026, will also include 2 high-density polyethylene derivative units with a total production capacity of about 1.7 million tons per annum. We have created a joint venture company in which Qatar Energy owns 70% and CP Chem owns 30%.
And this particular project will make up a significant portion of our portfolio, certainly here in Qatar, and a good portion of our portfolio globally. And so it's a significant investment.
Goldman Sachs will start one of its biggest rounds of job cuts as it locks in on a plan to eliminate about 3,200 positions this week. The financial services giant is expected to begin the process midweek, and the total number of people affected will not exceed 3,200, according to the report, which was being cited by a source. James Cameron's Avatar, The Way of the Water, has clung to first place on the North American box office this weekend, pulling in an estimated $45 million. But an unexpectedly popular horror movie placed a strong second. The Avatar sequel has now led the box office for 4 weeks, according to industry watcher Exhibitor Relations. 20th century sci-fi film has amassed domestic earnings of $516 million and $1.19 billion domestically, making it the 7th biggest movie in history. More in these headlines. We cross over to London, where we're joined by Arise business analyst Bode Oshoshimi. Good morning, Bode. Thanks for joining us. So this week, the focus on the United States, mainly on the December CPI numbers out Thursday. What are you expecting?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Odiri. Thanks for having me on your show. The CPI data released for Thursday is the last major piece of data before the next Fed meeting on the 31st of January and the 1st of February. The expectation is headline annual CPI would be 6.6%. That is down from an increase of 7.1% in November. That would be the slowest pace since October 2021 if that happens. And that would be driven by falling energy prices and drop in used car prices, especially as the lending criteria is stricter and demand is dropping. Core inflation, that's the annual core inflation, is also expected to 5.7%, better than 6% in November, also coming down. So this is a very important piece of the data for the Fed meeting. Remember, the non-farm payrolls data reinforced a trend of more jobs added in lower paying sectors like leisure and hospitality, while higher paying sectors like technology and manufacturing struggled to add jobs. So although the labor market looked firm, we saw this slower increase in wages, increasing only 0.3% month on month, where economists had expected 0.4%. So the lower wage growth plays to a lowering of pressure on inflation and a more dovish Fed. So it's all about inflation and how much lower it's likely to get, and how does that affect the Fed dot plot. Markets are pricing in a 57% probability of a 25 basis points Fed rate hike in February. After the NFP, that's non-farm payroll, the probability went up to 76% of a 25 basis points hike and 24% probability of 50. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, meanwhile, I think markets are somewhat positive, especially if you look at sentiment.
Yeah, speaking of that sentiment, a lot of it is being said it's on the back of this China reopening. Is it too early to be optimistic about 2023, what we're seeing with China?
Well, I think markets definitely are very, very optimistic. Shanghai, Hang Seng, Nikkei, DAX, CAC 100, as we speak, they're all in positive territory. Even US futures are all in positive territory. And the PBOC, they said China's economic growth will return to normal path as they're providing very aggressive monetary support and stimulus to households and private companies to push the economy back to where they felt it really should be, especially after zero COVID policy ends. That, of course, is causing a stampede, not just of travelers into China after borders are opening, but fresh trade deals are being initiated to take advantage of the pent-up demand, which can be quite huge in a market like China. Quoting the PBOC, they said the key to the economic recovery is to convert current total income to consumption and investment to the largest possible extent, also noting that incomes will be boosted with the financial sector enhancing products to enable car and home purchases. They also say that monetary policy will also provide more support for private sector firms to expand credit growth. Of course, they are watching imported inflation closely, but so far I tend to agree that obviously positive economic news from China, being a major economy with all kinds of multiplier effects on demand and global trade, it's a major market driver. Oil prices are also positive on the back of this. What is less clear, Reuters, is the success of the reopening, because we've seen cases of COVID rising last week. Now, how does that develop? We have to wait and see.
All right, and Qatar signing that $6 billion petrochemical deal in a joint venture in partnership with Chevron Phillips Chemical. What else do we know?
Well, it marks an important milestone in Qatar's downstream expansion strategy. Qatar says it will not just facilitate further expansion in the petrochemical sector, but it will also reinforce the integrated positioning strategy they have as a major global player in the upstream, LNG, downstream sectors. Fossil fuels are on their last lap. We all know that, but how long that lap will be and what will be the nature of that last lap is not quite clear. Gas will play a much bigger role. Refineries are already seeing a lot of overcapacity as electric cars catch on, and there is likely to be a move, especially for these oil companies, into regulatory jurisdictions where investors are very welcome and the climate is not just safe, but the cost benefit and risk return considerations add up. because we're in a time of rising cost of funds, forcing a demand for higher margins, and that is also resulting in recalibration of the investment focus. And as the geoeconomics drives a global rethink on where you want to invest and new vulnerabilities demanding for more flexibility and diversity in the global value chains, we're going to see more of these types of deals. And of course, we've learned from the pandemic and the complex fallout from Russia-Ukraine war. But gas is still going to be very important, and Qatar is definitely positioning itself to monetize its gas and get into the petrochemical space much more vigorously.
So much to look forward to. A fascinating year ahead. Arise business analyst Body Oshosumi. Buddy, thanks for taking us through the headlines. Appreciate your insights as always. It is the Global Business Report here on Arise News. We'll have more for you after the break. Do stay tuned.
A reflection of the Nigerian never say die spirit. They never stay down. You're always thinking of how to improve. You're always thinking of how to move forward. My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I've been a civil engineer for 18 years. I'm the project manager of Obadana Kaba Road. The Obadana Kaba Road is 43 kilometers built completely of concrete pavement. We started work on December 2016. I remember when we came here, it was virtually lifeless. We're building a road that we know will need very minimal maintenance. It's a road that we don't need to rush back to in 5 years, trying to carry out major maintenance work. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. All the cement we use on this road is from Dangote Cement Factory, which is the largest cement factory in Africa. The sand is from the communities, so people from the community, they end up becoming suppliers. Imagine supplying sand for a 43-kilometer road. It's a lot of money. There are things I've learned from building this concrete road that I never knew 10 years ago. And to be able to lead those people to achieve something worthwhile, something that is of value to them, to the community, to people who have never met us. And I am positive that the road will outlast most of the people who are building the road. Along this road, you have up to 12 communities. People have the confidence to open shops. Why? Because, someone is going through the road, they sell their things, they sell their goods. That is more money for them. We have a number of eateries now, and you want to buy foods along the road, you get fresh food, not food that are preserved. No, you get fresh food. So it is good for us, and it's good for the community too. The road is a lot more safer now for everybody, including Halima, including other travelers. So they have better road, lesser crime, shorter journey times. So a lot of advantages. I've had people who go through the roads and they stop to just say, well done. We are proud of what is happening here. We're happy that this is going on in Nigeria in our time. We can see it. They are proud of it. I think it has brought life back to the communities. I feel very proud, extremely proud being a part of this project.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.